spirit? It's the story of a spirit. Who is a spirit? Raise your hands. Just make sure we are aware that we are spirits too, right? We are all spirits, but we are incarnated. So in the Spiritist science, there are technical terms. Kardec coined the term soul for those spirits who are incarnated. These are technical features we need to pay attention. We may call ourselves soul spirits. Oh, I saw a soul. But in Spiritism, we use it for those who are incarnated. When we're discarnated, we simply say a spirit. Not that we're not, because we are. Okay? So, before I begin, I would like to say that on March 31st, which is going to be Sunday, we're celebrating 150 years of the discarnation of Kardec. And it's funny we say this because people are like, you're celebrating. Yes, because he completed his mission. And we have all the reasons to celebrate the accomplishment of that life that is changing our lives as we speak. We wouldn't be here today were it not for the efforts of Kardec and the spirits in two realms. So one of the reasons why we are showing this is because Kardec worked very hard in ways unimaginable. One of the things that he did, which was very hard, was to publish not only the books, but the Spiritist magazine. In French, they named it the Revue Spirit, but it's the Spiritist magazine, and he published it every month for 12 years. And it was actually when he was by the door of his house to pick up the delivery of the last publication that he had, I think it was a stroke, and he died. It was precisely in his work that he had his final days, final hours. And it was in one of the volumes, May 1859, that we find a particular dialogue between a friend of Kardec, and a discarnate spirit. Kardec talked to spirits without being afraid. Juliana just read for us a message by Emmanuel in the book Living Spring, titled Being Afraid. And many people say, I'm afraid of spirits. But we are spirits, right? But we are spirits. Oh, but Vanessa, you know what it means. No, I don't, because what's the difference? One day we discarnate, you want people to be afraid of you. But that's precisely what happens. All the accounts by the good spirits tell us that often people discarnate and the loved ones don't want to talk about it. They're like, oh no, don't say anything, no, don't mention, or they're gonna come. Right? Even if you start saying the S word, like, oh, it's like an evocation. Don't be afraid. Because spirits, incarnated or discarnated, are just like us. And today we're gonna see precisely the story of a spirit that comes to Kardec and his friend. The story begins in this report in one of the issues of the Spiritist magazine in 1859, when Kardec was reporting about the hardships of the making of Spiritism. And then suddenly we get to know of this spirit that shows up through a friend. I have here the dialogue, pieces of the dialogue and images. If you want to read some more of Kardec's works and other current works, and works that will take 1,000,000 years to be translated into English, you just go to the Spiritist magazine, okay? It's been 11 years that we've been coordinating these works. You just go to the website, spiritistmagazine.org, however you type it, thespiritistmagazine.com, spiritistmagazine.com, spiritistmagazine.org. In many 10,000 ways, we bought all the domains. It's going to lead you there. So there is no way you can make a mistake. If you do, write to us, because we need to know, okay? But there is also an app. There is also an app, and I want to show it to you. It's free of charge. It's a decision that we made to not charge. So basically, the Spiritist Society of Virginia is the one that sustains the efforts also of the Spiritist magazine. So there is, you can download Android, Apple, the Spiritist magazine, open, and you have all the 44 issues available here. This coming Monday, we'll release issue number 45. And it talks about several different things. And you can even download the PDFs if you want to study, if you want for your reference. And if you want the real magazine, you can click and buy. And it goes to a particular website. We have partnership with the HP Mag Cloud. You go there and you buy the issues. They deliver at your home. And it's like between $10 and $12 depending on the number of pages. So it's worthwhile having this at hand. So in May of 1859, Kardec published the case of this spirit. Kardec said, I have a friend of mine, who educated his mediumship and developed the writing mediumship and clairvoyance as well. And he says that he wants this spirit appear to him out of the blue. And I will keep looking at the dialogue because of course it's very detailed, so I can read certain parts for you and you can get to know of it. So pretty much this friend is writing the information. He says, the spirit that is discarnated, he says, here I am. My name, somebody asks, what's your name? And through the medium, the spirit writes, my name is, and I know if you speak Portuguese, this is just a translation, but it was in French. The French name was Pierre Le Flamand. But of course, in Brazil, everything becomes funny. They translate as Pedro Flamengo. And it's nothing to do with the soccer team. Okay? So Pierre Le Flamand is actually his name, his nickname. And then the friend of Kardec asked, well, but do I know you? Yes, I am one of your friends. You don't remember me? He says, no. Please remind me of who you are. Remember in school that day when I beat you up? That's me. Oh my gosh. The bullies are relentless. They come back. We're saying this kindly, but he was a bully, and you see how it goes on in the afterlife. Well, he says, okay, if that's you, then, okay, when did you die? He said, well, I died quite young. You know, I did foolish things. He didn't disclose what it was, but he recognizes that he died quite young because he was careless. It's pause for us. It's interesting to observe the behavior in school, the aggressiveness, impulsiveness, early death, right? The sum of it all. If we, parents and educators, could just pay more attention and tame those forces early on to save a life, to save a reincarnation from being wasted. If anybody asks, is it possible to waste a reincarnation? Yes. What do we need to do? That doesn't mean being a criminal only. It means just not doing what you came here to do. When you read the book 2,000 years ago, it's shocking. I've read and listened to the book many times, and what's the most striking is when Emmanuel himself discloses to us that in that life as a Roman senator was in vain, that he didn't use it well at all. The way he concludes his narration, his narrative, is really striking, because it shows to us that even though to the Roman society he was the senator, in the eyes of God, in his own conscience, he wasted it all. He missed the boat. Telling us that the world may be applauding us, that doesn't mean we're in the right path. Very tricky. Often our families are going to say, if you're making a lot of money, great, you're doing great. Oh, you have a great job, your kids are in school, and you're doing great, fantastic. That's very deceiving, because the minute you tell them, well, I decided to live in a smaller house, to dedicate 2/3 of our income to benefiting this, that, and the other. Like, why? You sure you want to do this? What about your children? What about the world doesn't approve yet? Food for thought. Pierre Le Flamand showed to us that he was impulsive, he was careless, he discarnated early. Well, then the question, how did you get to my house? And then he wrote, well, I came here because somebody told me to come here. But I was at your neighbor's house. It's so funny. What were you doing at the neighbor's house? I was just browsing around, looking at the pictures on the walls. And I was observing when people were talking to one another, and I wanted to talk to them as well. This reports precisely several hundreds of thousands of cases that Kardec reported in other people. This is the behavior of many spirits. They enter, they talk to people, they get in between us without any of us being aware of it. So people were talking, and he said, you know, I wanted to talk too, but somebody asked me to come here. Well, but how did you get in? And he says, well, why couldn't I come in? You think your house is such a sacred place that I cannot come in? Many of us, right? Like, we close the door and think we're all by ourselves. You'll be surprised by the accounts. He's saying that door doesn't block any spirit from coming in. Well, then, of course, Kardec's friend was a little upset and said, come on, stop playing. You are not being serious here. Tell us precisely. And he says, okay, in serious meetings, we who are not very evolved, who are of less, he uses terms here that we can't put in English words well. But he says, but you know, at least I can tell you, the reasons why we may come in or not depends more on the evolved spirits than on you. Many people ask this question. How can I protect myself from spirits that are not superior? If you attract high elevated spirits, they are the ones who will keep the security. And then the question, how do I attract superior spirits? Answer, in the Spirit's book, in the Medium's book, and in the book Paul and Stephen. Selflessness, being charitable, thinking of others first, and humility. Humility is not about many things that we think, it's just putting God first in everything we do. Never thinking that we have any control whatsoever. Think about it now. Right now, we're breathing. Where is the switch on and off? Do you know? Do you know where it is? Do you? I don't. It's in God's hands. And often we have the illusion that we have any control over our lives. And our lives are 100% in God's hands. Our existence, not only the physical body, our existence, it doesn't depend on us. That's humility. That realization begins from that moment when we contemplate the greatness of God and our submission to this greatness of God. So, Pierre Lecointre has a lot to share with us. He says, you know, then they say, but you're dead. He says, no, I'm not dead. My body's dead. He's a little, you know, the spirits have emotions just like us. People ask, how do I talk to a spirit? Like anybody else. Discarnate spirits and incarnate spirits are just like us. If you push a button, it hurts. If you say something, they feel it. It's not in the physical body. It's so funny because as a scientist, I've witnessed many meetings, scientists, colleagues of mine asking questions. What's the silver bullet for stopping pain, for controlling emotions? If they just knew it's not in the body. That's why no medication is universally fit. If you have the same painkiller and give to 10 people, it has different effects. Why? Science cannot explain, but Spiritism can. Because it's in the mind. The silver bullet is in the mind. The day our medicine, the day our psychological treatments work at the root, we can heal. It's in the mind. So much so that Chico Xavier once, and it's going to be released Monday in the Spiritist magazine, in the new issue. There was a man who was bleeding. He came to Chico Xavier because he thought that was the fantastic Jerônimo Mendonça, who was a fantastic medium in Brazil. But he had a degenerative disease and was always laying down on a bed, though serving people throughout Brazil. One day he was bleeding, it was so severe that he said, I need to see Chico Xavier before I pass away. They flew him by plane, of course, and took him to Chico. When Chico saw, he said, "Well, you look like a rose. Like a rose flower. So much blood around." He said, "Everybody, let's kiss Jerônimo's hand." And there is a picture of Chico kissing his hand. Chico was the last one to kiss Jerônimo Mendonça's hand. He kissed the hand. The bleeding stopped. He regained strength. He turned to Chico and said, "Isn't that funny? I thought I was going to die." And then Chico said, "You know, Emmanuel just told me that it is your feeling of self-pity, that poor me feeling, that let you bleed that way. The silver bullet is in our minds. We need to train ourselves. We just know it, but we need a coaching. And Spiritism is coaching us to that." So he's saying, "No, I'm not dead. I'm not dead." But you see, spirits get angry just like us. So anger is not in your body. That's why in the Gospel according to Spiritism, we have Hahnemann, the father of homeopathy, and other spirits saying, if you feel anger, don't blame your body, because anger is in you. Look, the discarnate spirit is feeling angry, and he doesn't have a physical body. Of course, if my physical body allows me to feel more strongly, I will. Of course, if I eat a lot of sugar, I'll be moody. It's a two-way road. It affects the spirit, of course, of course. It's like clothes. If you wear something that is too tight, it makes you feel uncomfortable, right? The same way for the spirit. So he says here, what do you do? He asks, what do you do during your daily life in the spiritual realm? I don't know. I have nothing to do. He says, look at him. Apparently the invisible one, right? The invisible one. You can see, right? The one here on the left. And he says, what I like the most is to listen to people's conversations. Oh my Lord. He likes listening to people's conversations. And I observe, and I like going to friends' houses, and I like going to the theaters. Oh my gosh, next time we go to the theaters. And we thought it was just a bar. Or the restaurants. Or the discos. Now it's theaters too. Everywhere. Anywhere. In the streets. Everywhere. Right? 2/3 of the population of the earth is discarnated. Of these 2/3, 1/3 of it is actually of superior order. 2/3 of the 2/3 are of, I would say, kind of just like us. Okay? Just like us, to say the least. But then he says, you know, the funny thing is that I can go anywhere and I see hilarious things. I get into people's homes. And he says, I laugh at people's things when they are, you thought in the bathroom is a safe place? I'm gonna hide. No spirit's gonna find me in the bathroom. Oh, they go. They go when you go. And they are there and they watch us. And look, this is not a friend of the man. He just enters. He witnesses. And you may be asking, oh my gosh, how do I defend the field of my house?
Jesus in the home.
The Jesus in the home. The good spirits, why we're still oscillating in our emotions, in our acquisitions of virtue, they create a field of security in our homes. Less less intensity will be experienced. Yet, we will bring the spirits that we attract. But not the other ones that won't come. It's like the story of the bananas. The bananas. Chico entered the house to help that family. People who were experiencing true obsession. He passes by the kitchen and sees a bunch of bananas. He's hungry, but he can't eat because he's serving. He continues walking. When he's leaving, he sees two spirits by the door entering and eating the bananas fluidically. He's amazed and he asks, Emmanuel, what is this? He says, well, Chico, in homes where people do not pray, they're open. There's no lock. Any spirit can enter if they feel like so. But what's going to happen with the people who eat these bananas? They're going to feel ill. Stomach bug explained? Yes. So many things we don't know, right? All in the Spiritist literature. That's why we need to study these books. To be more fully aware of the reality that we're in. We're spirits. We need to study about ourselves. As we're studying the story of Pierre, we're studying ourselves. And the stories of everyone who is around us. And he tells us more. He says, you know, though I can do whatever I like, it's torture for me, he says. It's torture. Because I wanted to be there with people doing things. And I have to be here just watching them. Pause. Go to the book 2,000 years ago by Emmanuel. Pontius Pilate. Right? Pontius Pilate, the famous wash his hands kind of. When you read, Emmanuel tells us more about the story. Pontius Pilate, after discarnating, we know he killed himself. He comes back to visit the beautiful city of Rome. And the beauty of it all is that Emmanuel describes Pontius Pilate feeling when he's visiting, saying, oh, how I wish I could be there in the place of everybody like I used to be, enjoying the pleasures of that moment. For spirits of this level, it's torture to be discarnated and not be there. Like for Pierre. Has nothing else to do. He's just wandering. We see the homeless in DC. It's maybe worse. Because they have no perspective whatsoever, these discarnate spirits. That's why we have to have mediumistic meetings. Because once they are brought to the dialogue, you see at the end, they find a new purpose in life. They are no longer wandering. And this is not per se an obsessor. Okay. Kardec then, he makes a comment. He says, yes, Pierre is right. In several cases, and in the book Heaven and Hell, we'll see, there are many spirits who go through this torture of just seeing what we do and not being able to do what we do. If you go to the Spirits book by Kardec, Kardec then asks, why do some spirits want to create problems for people? The answer, because they are unhappy, jealous of our happiness. Next time you're joyful and celebrate, pray. Celebrate with God. It's safer. Because there are spirits who are wandering around and they don't want our happiness at all. Don't be afraid. Remember Emmanuel saying, don't be afraid. This is to empower us so we can make wiser choices. And sometimes they are not going to complicate our lives, but they are going to complicate the lives of our loved ones to affect us. Complicated. Then what else? Well, he said, well, I don't have friends. I used to have friends, and now, I don't know what else to do. And then this person who is talking to the Spirit says, I feel for you. I wish you would see that life has a better purpose. And then he says, thank you for saying this. It's the first time I hear good words, good wishes, good vibrations to me. So saying prayers for the spirits, even though we don't know, to the wandering spirits is helpful as well. If you are experiencing insomnia, pray. Pray. Pray for those who are wandering and don't know what they are doing. Because at least the homeless on earth, they have other people noticing them that come and bring something. But the ones in the spiritual realm, the superior spirits, they don't invade. They don't show up and say, ta-da, my magician, come here. They're scared away. They are not abrupt. They are not aggressive. It needs to come from the person. Prayer is the secret. In all of Kardec's messages, when a discarnate spirit prays, immediately they are rescued. Why? Because people have been praying for them and are waiting for them for a long time. So if we pray, we're helping them as well. And you see in the story we're going to tell next. So he says, I can't help it but to go to the theaters. And in one night, I can go to all of them. Can you imagine? And I love being in between people's conversations. Is that why our conversations sometimes go to the wrong way? I was talking to this person, and suddenly I said this. I don't know why. Or suddenly somebody said that. I didn't get it. Like, it's as if there is, and there is. There are many people in that conversation, more than the physical eyes can see. A conversation sometimes at home between a husband and a wife, partners, or parents and children. It doesn't go well. You think you're alone? No, of course not. Are we blaming everything on the Spirit? No. But inevitably, it's always teamwork effort. And if you ask, Vanessa, what do I do? André Louis says to us in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship, there are two types of mental currents. When we think, we either connect with constructive mental currents or destructive ones. So the wisest way is to think before we talk. But Vanessa, then we're not going to talk. Best way, don't talk. Silence is golden. I have here a book by Thich Nhat Hanh. Silence, the power of quiet in a world full of noise, in two realms. He doesn't talk about the spirits, but we could add it and say a lot of noise. Mediums can hear a lot of noise. It's so noisy that it can make you go crazy if you are a hearing medium. Because it's a lot of noise. So we need to pay attention. You see, people are there just entertaining themselves. If they just knew they're never alone. And he says, you know, it's funny because I entertain myself at going to people's conversations and studying their habits. But what is most interesting, and listen to this, he says, what is very curious, that really gets on the nerve, is when I see people trying to make themselves look younger. Oh my gosh, that gets on the nerves of the spirits. So you don't want to look younger anymore. No, just pretend you look younger. Just be who you are. Isn't that interesting? Such an interesting thing. And he was, of course, talking about people who brag about themselves, make them look like they can do it all. Right? You know what we're talking about. That's precisely what he's talking about. That gets on the nerves of the spirits. So if we want to make friends, we shouldn't do that. He says, you know, I want to give you I want to help you. The friend of Kardec said, we want to help you. We want to ask you to help somebody else. He said, I'm going to think about it. He left. He came back a second time. When he came back, the friend of Kardec said, you know, we talked about you to Kardec, and he said, I know, because I was allowed to go into his house. What? To Kardec's house? Yes. Well, but doesn't he have big shot spirits there? He does, right? Kardec had all the illuminated spirits surrounding him to produce everything that he was producing. And it's so beautiful what he says of Kardec. He says, oh my, I learned so much at observing Kardec. And this is a beautiful illustration trying to portray a little bit about how Kardec did his work. The little desk, the feather pen, everything, like they tried to portray a little bit of how it was. And he says, you know, it's interesting. I learned a lot. And what is more interesting is that when I was there, I felt that there was this other spirit, more superior to me, encouraging me to learn more. I've never felt that before. Of course, Kardec is an educator. He was surrounded by good spirits. Finally, in that environment, that spirit felt the presence of his protecting spirit. Do you think when we discarnate, we don't have protecting spirits helping us? We continue having protection and guidance, but it's up to us to listen to them, to see them. It's like children. If you leave them alone, they won't come to you, right? Unless they need something. And then they come. But for discarnate spirits, they may spend centuries sometimes not requesting superior help. They are comfortable. At the level that they are. Then he says to us, when I was there, I really felt that this spirit wanted me, like a father, to help or to learn while observing people and helping people, like a father that has a mission to educate his children. And right now, he's behind me. So during that conversation, like in our mediumistic meetings, the spirit presents himself to help. This is the beauty of mediumistic meetings. to rescue the spirits. It's like psychotherapy for the discarnate spirits. And he said, I want to tell you more. When I was there the day before, he was busy. He was working a new work. And he writes with perfection about ourselves as spirits. And the person who was talking through the medium asked, was Kardec alone? Physically, yes. But he was surrounded by a dozen of spirits. Did he hear the spirits? Yes. So much so that he looked around thinking that he was hearing noises of flies going around, or he looked at the window thinking it was the rain or it was the wind. Later, Kardec discloses that it was true. Kardec was not an ostensible medium, he was of intuition. But he could hear the noises and not clearly understand, decode what it was. But anyhow, he is a man who is doing a great job. So I tribute and gratitude to Kardec for his great work. Later, when I left Kardec's house, I was wandering in the street. Now listen to this final story he's going to tell us. I was wandering in the streets, and I was entertaining myself in the shops. Oh no, not even the malls. We thought we could escape away from the wandering spirits there. No, even there. He said, you know, but don't you have anything else to do? I said, no, but I did something good. I prevented a man from robbing a store. Now listen to the story. He sees, and I'll say with my own words, okay? He observes that inside of that store, which is already closed, there is a young man inside. He notices and he finds it strange. This is a discarnate spirit observing an incarnated one. He says, he's trying to rob the store. So this is the incarnated thief. He goes after. He says, no, I'm not going to let it happen. And he observes that next to this incarnated man, there are two spirits. A spirit that is telling him, go ahead, do it. And another they're saying, take it easy, think twice. So he goes in front of them and says, don't do it. The bad spirit looks at him and said, why are you getting into this? You have nothing to do. And the guardian angel also says something interesting. You shouldn't put yourself into this story. He needs to be tasked. So the guardian angel is there, but it is on us. It's like a kid. The parent can be there when they are doing homework, saying, come on, but you don't say the answer. You don't write for them. That's the role of a guardian angel. You don't write for them. You don't give them the answer, but you're there supporting. Just so we understand how guardian angels may operate. I'm not saying that this is it, but just part of it. So when he's there trying to make this man change his mind, the other spirit, the bad spirit, turns and whispers, sip a little, a glass of, drink something. The man goes there and opens it up. The spirit, Pierre, is talking to the guardian angel, and he says, no, we need to help him somehow. I know. I'm going to go upstairs and talk to the couple who's the owner of the store. And the owners, while the man is drinking, they were just playing cards. But they don't see him. So he comes and whispers. How? He makes the man sneeze. The man sneezes, hears a noise, it's like get them out of the trance of playing cards. He hears a noise. And then he whispers, "Go downstairs to get something for your cigars." He turns to his son and says, "Son, go downstairs and pick it up." And the spirit goes desperate and says, "No, no, no." He whispers again, the drama of a spirit trying to convince people to do the good. So hard. It's like coding, right? You're trying to program somebody, but it's not going. And he says to the wife, "No, don't let him do this. Ask him to go himself." So the woman says, "Come on, don't do this to the boy. Go there yourself. He doesn't know where it is." He goes downstairs. The Pierre comes with him and says, "Pay attention." He observes that there is a man, and he says, the legs of the man were shaking. He was so afraid. He didn't know. He froze. He didn't know what to do. And the spirit says, "Say something, you." And he says a word there. And he says, "Call the police." And of course, the thief goes away. He's relieved that he helped somebody. Of course, when the owner of the store goes upstairs, says Pierre, he told the story in his own way, saying that he actually scared the thief away. He was not afraid. He was so brave. So it's interesting because the spirits see everything. They see everything we do. No wonder we go to sleep with a to-do list. We wake up and sometimes it's hard to fulfill the to-do list. We're not alone. Why do the good spirits allow us to go through this? Because we need to practice connecting with the constructive mental current. And if we belong to a group, family, the whole family needs to do it. So he comes back, plays brave. The spirit sees it all. And he says, it's interesting. I helped them. I did my best. But right now, I keep thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know. So, Kardec's friend, through the medium, talking to Pierre, says, we have a proposal for you. We need you to help a friend that is going to the wrong pathway. What do you want me to do? To materialize in front of him? Says, we don't know, but since you helped that man, can you please do something to help him as well? The beauty of this case is to show to us that somebody who came a wandering spirit is not evil, he's not a bad person. He's just in need of knowledge, of guidance, like ourselves. We do many of these things without noticing. If we discarnate now, how can we guarantee we're not going to be like Pierre? That we'll be wandering around, putting ourselves in the conversations of others, sometimes family members, friends, people at work, or just going around things, establishments, interfering with people's lives without knowing what to do. Pierre's life is for us a reminder that what's going to happen in the afterlife depends on what we're doing here now. When Allan Kardec worked so hard 162 years ago to publish the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, the Gospel according to Spiritism, Heaven and Hell, Genesis, the 12 volumes of the Spiritist magazine, from 1858 until 1859. To disclose all of this, he said to his wife, we need to make sure that people understand why they are living here. To be focused. To keep ourselves awake and not be blind. Pierre comes to remind us that his lifestyle in the beyond can be ours if we don't change the course of events. Many people ask, what's going to happen in the afterlife? It depends on what we're doing now. That's why we study about the afterlife, to know precisely what we do here and the effects in the continuation. Are we prioritizing what is permanent or what is temporary? Recently, in a mediumistic meeting, a spirit came and said, yes, people come and ask for help, but if they are not honest in their professions, if they are not sincere with their families, there's little you can do for them. And this spirit was speaking Portuguese, and it even rhymed, because he said, without honesty there is no protection. We can't be happy if we're lying, stealing, slandering, if we're not being kind and generous. The good spirits will have a hard time helping us, because the ones who come after us are mere attraction of our mental field. So a good exercise for us to shift physically, because we're incarnated, we can't lose sight of the blessing of the physical body. The physical body grounds us. Breathing is the first mechanism. When we breathe consciously, we trigger relaxation, we think more clearly, says Dr. Herbert Benson. When we do so, we can do affirmations. Without positive thinking, we cannot achieve positive behavior, positive attitude. We do what comes in our minds. We speak what is in our hearts. So we need to coach ourselves daily to thinking good things about ourselves, others, and life in general. Seeing the blessings in disguise in everything we do. If the spirits at this meeting, the incarnated, were showing away Pierre, how many good things came out of it to date? Thanks to that dialogue, we're more fully aware about the interaction of two realms. When Kardec defined the Spiritist science, he says, Spiritism is a science that has the goal to study the nature, the origin, the nature, the destiny of ourselves as spirits, and the interaction with two realms. We need to know how it happens because it influences us. That's why we encourage people to read the books. That's why Chico Xavier was told by Emmanuel, you're going to channel all of your potential to bringing the true healing to people. the healing of the mind. It's a unique treasure in life that you won't find anywhere else. So let us read, and like Pierre, one day we'll be smiling like that, because he was being recruited to help, upgraded. He was promoted from wandering spirit to a helper. Right? Does anybody have any question? I know we could be speaking much more here, but our time is up. Anybody has like a Nietzsche question?
I do. So, I wonder in what state of mind we disincarnate, because if I stay too long without doing anything, it drives me insane. So I can't picture myself in, right now at least, I can picture myself in the spiritual world just going through each other's conversation and not trying to do something. So the question is, when we discarnate, we detach from this mindset that we have here, that we have to be productive, that we keep on doing things, or is there a disconnect?
Okay, thank you, Rejane. There are many elements in your question, and let's try to address at least two of them. One, there are many people, I'm not saying you, but there are many people who constantly focus on doing something because they are escaping away from their emotions. Okay? So we have to be always on the go. I can't stop, because if I stop, things are gonna pop up. You know, pop, like pop-ups. Yeah? In the computer you can control, but in the mind, unless you look the other way. Loud music, TV, things, conversations, parties, something, please, Saturday, Sunday is coming, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Right? Many people are desperate, like they need to know what they're gonna do. Or, oh my gosh, afraid of boredom. If it really exists, right? But why do we need to be always on the go? Because we're escaping. Joana de Angelis talks about escape mechanisms in the book Existential Conflicts. It's already in English. So we need to read about it and get help. But then the other part of it, in the book Heaven and Hell, there's a beautiful explanation. Kardec knew that people would ask this question, and he addressed it in the second part of the book Heaven and Hell. In the first chapter, he talks about the passing, and he says it varies, and there's one rule: according the discarnation, one thing is death, the body dies. Discarnation is the detachment between the perispirit and the physical body, right? Physical body may be dead, but the bonds of attachment, he says, the links, if they are too strong together, it's hard. But what rules the intensity of the bond between the perispirit and the physical body? How materialistic we are. But we often think materialistic is for Donald Trump. We wish it would be easy. Materialism is in us. When we prioritize our family versus the universal family, this is materialism. No, but I'm not going to spend my weekend helping others. I have my family. That's materialism. But it's my work. I can't stop my project to help my colleague because I have to finish my project. I'm attached. Selfishness and pride create strong bonds between the perispirit, our true spiritual body, and the physical body. So what do we do, on the other hand? The more we let go. One example, read the books 5 books by Emmanuel. From 2,000 years ago to Paul and Stephen. 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, they're in English already. Hail Christ, Renunciation, Paul and Stephen. In those books, Emmanuel shows to us people who made choices that made their process of discarnation easy, because they were not prioritizing what the world thinks is a priority. Livia in the first one, 2,000 years ago. Celia in the book 50 years later. Abigail and Stephen in the book Paul and Stephen. And later Paul himself, he learned the beauty of the book Paul and Stephen is to show to us that even in one life we can make a huge mistake, and yet we still have time to recover if we want. But to detach, Saul's decision to quit the status of being who he was and following a new path is a big deal. How many people do this? Few. Because people always think, but my work is more important, my family is more important. We're progressing on earth. We're better than 2,000 years ago, but not quite. So those things make us still be too attached to the physical body. Our selfishness and pride create roots that block our way from detaching easily. We wish we could have 1 more hour just to go through the details of it all. But hopefully next month we'll dedicate one full hour on a Friday here to disclose more about these elements. Okay, thank you for asking, Rejane. Look at the flowers. Beautiful, right? You know, Joana de Angelis says that flowers are God's signature. They don't know that they are making us happy when we look at them. They are creatures of God too. And each one of us here, like a flower, you also make people happy without noticing. But it's important that we let the perfume, our divine, our beauty, to blossom, friends. Shine your light, said Jesus. Let it shine. So let us dim the lights and continue communing with the good spirits here, knowing that they are here to help us. They brought us here. They brought the spirits who are with us. Let us close our eyes, breathing deeply. Breathe out slowly. Visualize hands of light touching our heads. Feel the rays of light permeating your mind, your physical, very spiritual brain. Renewing your vitality. Let us breathe in deeply and out slowly. Breathe in deeply. Breathe out slowly. Let us feel at this moment the loving presence of the illuminated spirits who love us deeply, as they offer renewed energies. And visualize our homes being illuminated and renewed. Let us raise our thoughts even higher in gratitude and observe our workplaces also being renewed, like waters of the ocean in waves of healing, coming and going. Renewing, bringing you harmony. Let us feel the presence of our guardian angels. Feel it. The protecting spirit that loves you dearly, as well as everyone in your life, who is working hard to help you and everyone in your life. Let us emanate special gratitude to this loving and kind paternal, maternal figure in our lives. And tell ourselves inside of our hearts, God loves me and I know you. God loves me and I know it. I feel God's loving care in everything and everyone in my life. And now we prepare ourselves even more deeply to express our deepest gratitude. Praise God for the beauty and the depth of life. We kindly ask our dear Daisy to come and lead